Hi, this is going to be an introductory video about how to do web scraping in Python. So using Beautiful Soup library. I'm going to start with this website. We're using books2scrape.com. I'll try and zoom in maybe a little bit so if you can see that. So it's a website that's designed to be scraped. So it's very kind of easily formatted, or formatted in a way that's easy for us to access data. But what we're going to do in here, when you want to start, I guess the first thing you have to do is identify what data you want to collect off here. In this one, I'm going to collect all of the prices. I'm going to look for all the prices and see kind of like maybe the average price or the max price, minimum price, something like that. But whatever I do with the data, the first thing I need to do is be able to collect it. So what you want to do is we are going to use the kind of the styling elements that are present in a web page kind of as our tool to find like items, because all of these items, like all of these things, are kind of like they're in the same format, so they're all going to have the same what's called like CSS. They're kind of like their style is going to be the same, so we can use that as a hook or a key to try and find these elements and write code that will go and find these. Because a lot of what web scraping is about is really doing pattern matching, finding a pattern and kind of exploiting that pattern to extract data. So I'm going to start in here. First, we need to figure out kind of what those things are. So what I'm going to start with, and I just need to see where this is happening inside the code. So we're going to go into inspect HTML. Scroll this over a little bit. Oh, I actually want all that stuff. All right, so as we scroll through this HTML, let me go back all the way up to the top. We can look through and like what we're looking for is as we highlight over the different parts of this, we're going to see what elements correspond to this section of the HTML. And inside of here, we are going to have a bunch of subcategories. This is like there's a whole bunch of nested boxes in here. So as we open this up, we can see all these other boxes. I'm going to hide some of this. So as I like look through here, I say, okay, well, if I want to get the header, I'd be looking into this header class. But I'm really kind of, because there's some stuff maybe with the footer, maybe some other stuff going on here. I really care about this class. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that. I think I maybe expanded some of this already earlier, but okay. So again, like, all right, our code should be somewhere in here. We want to mess with this. All right. Okay. So you can see we're starting to like see before we're selecting the whole web page. Now we can see we're starting to break it down into smaller chunks. This is just doing the header. So if I wanted to like access something about, maybe I want to get some URLs or something out of there, I might want to look through that. All right, we're starting to get rows. Okay, so I think we need to dig into this, into our rows. And good, now we can see even further differentiation here. Like we have the left side with all of our different categories. This might be helpful if we want to collect a list of all of the different, genres of books that are at this store. Or maybe we want to take a step further and collect like a list of websites that we could then access later. We want to collect these websites and then we could scrape those further later or whatever else we might want to do. Maybe we want to aggregate those links for some reason. All right, now we're diving a little bit more into what we want. We want to really be dealing with this category. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Now you can see we're really breaking this down into very kind of minute parts. This part is dealing with really what we're looking for. And we're going to continue to drill down a little bit deeper. We're getting closer, Almost there. Okay, almost there. So it's going to be inside here. Okay, so now we're going at our first stopping point. We could dive deeper into each one of these elements and we could actually find specifically the part that's dealing with the price to see which one's in there. But what I want to do first is, what I want to highlight here is that all of these correspond to like information stored in this section of the website. So what I want to do first is I want to write some code that's going to pull out these. This is like a small section of HTML. I want to pull out each one of these in its own little chunk of HTML that we can examine further. And so I think that's a good first step to just kind of look at like what data are we gathering. So let's pop back over to our code. Oh, and what we're going to notice here is they are the tag here, the type of thing this is li, it's a list, and the class name, this is like the type of thing. So this is the key. These two things are the key things that we're going to use to identify we're going to give to our search engine to try and find these. So I am going to, I guess I'll come back and I'll have to copy that and paste it later. Let's see, let me find the right. All right, that looks good. So, okay, so you'll notice we started with we have the requests. That's going to help us access our HTML. I can actually request the website and collect that HTML. So we're going to say from requests, we're going to do .get, and we need to type in the URL for this. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so we want to grab this. That's going to be our page. So we're going to request that page. There's a lot of different things we could do in here. Page dot. We could do something like this if we just want to check and make sure that we are on the right page, right? Literally and figuratively on the right page. guess I don't want this video to take forever, so I won't do this in each step, but don't want to be that comprehensive. But we can see we're getting a 200 back, which means we are actually receiving the data. I think it's just important to have like a good awareness of like what data are we receiving. Are we receiving the thing we expect to be receiving, and then what is the contents of it? And so that's something that's kind of a line that we're going to follow through as we continue working on this. All right, we need to convert this into a soup object, a beautiful soup object. So we're going to run beautiful soup. We are going to pass in the content of this page, and then we are going to say what type of data we are expecting to take in. We're going to use a parser. So now we have a beautiful soup object. This is the entire website condensed down, created into a kind of manageable, beautiful soup object. So taking all the HTML and then kind of packaging up into a beautiful soup object. From that, we can look through and find the parts that we want. We can do a search through this soup object to find like the subcategories that we're looking for. So what we're going to do in here is I'm going to find like, let's say book group. This is going to be equal to, so I can do soup dot find all underscore, and then in here in parentheses we're going to have two things separated by a comma. The first is going to be the type of the type of the tag that we're going to be looking for. So in this case we're looking for that li, and then in here we're looking for what type of thing. We're looking for class, and it's going to be equal to this thing here. So this is like specifically what we're looking for in here. Okay, let's see. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to. I'm just gonna add in a little dummy print statement here so I can do some debugging. Because I really, again, just a consistent thing I'm gonna try and do here is really look into like what data am I getting. So a book group, and like what type of thing is book group? Book group is gonna be a list. Find all returns a list of all of the pieces of code that kind of match that were of an li type, a list tag with this name. And so we can see inside book group we have all of these things in here. And its contents, if we look down, somewhere here we should be able to, I think maybe if we highlight over it's better. We can see the content of it. So it's really just like that section of HTML from the code that was kind of underneath this li, like underneath this part of the code. So just kind of referencing back to that, we're basically collecting all of the subcategories that were underneath this thing. It's a very hierarchical approach to our websites, and the things nested inside the other. So we're collecting out this entire big chunk. What I'd like to do further with this, I want to go, I'm going to do print. I'm going to do book group. I just want to get out the first element because let's take a look at like what is one of these elements going to look like. This is going to return out the very first thing from our list, which is going to be this item right here. And I want to do dot printify to it. Okay. When you try and run that, and we're going to see like, so this is an element. And hopefully what we should be seeing is like this thing matches to the stuff that's stored in here. I'm not trying to be overly like detailed on here, but I just want to make a firm connection between what we're seeing on the web page and what we're getting in our code. So this is what we're getting out of that in our code. Okay, so the next step here, and there's probably other ways. I'll maybe show a quicker way of just maybe trying to dive right into this value. I don't think we need to necessarily go through all these steps, but I did want to show kind of some of the stuff behind the scenes because it's so easy to get caught up and just run this code. Like we want to see kind of why it works and what it's doing. All right, I'm also going to write some Java style code, and then I'll turn this into Python afterwards. So I'm going to say something like for, let's say for code in book group. I don't know what I could call it, like HTML chunk or something like that. What do I want to look for? Okay, so now I want to find within that, I want to dive into one of these and dig a little bit deeper and figure out, okay, where is the actual class within this thing that's going to hold our important information? It's in there. Okay, it's in here. Look, and I can see the price is right there. All right, so what I need to do in here is I need to look up P and then price underscore color. So let's see, we could do something like print code dot find. I'm going to do find all because find all will return us a list. We could return the list and take the first element off the list, but we're really only trying to find one thing. So I'm just going to use find, but it works otherwise the same as find all. So we're going to go into there. We're going to say the tag that we're looking for is P. And the class we're looking for is price color. Okay, let's just, I think just for the sake of doing this, because I think we're going to have a whole, well, let's see. Pretty close. Good. Okay, so now we're kind of really digging down into this. If we want to extract that information, we can just say, I think it's get text. I believe that's correct. Yeah, there we go. And I want to comment this out. I no longer need to print that out. So let's go back to that. When we run it, you should see we're just getting a list of prices, which is really good. We're really down to like the nuts and bolts of what we want to get out of this. Anything else that we might want to do? When we use some regex in here, we could also treat this like, because what I have in here, why I would want to use regex is I have this the pound sign on here. There's different ways we could use this. We could use regex on this, would be kind of a very all-encompassing approach. I could also just assume that there's always going to be pound signs up top, and I could take a slice of this. So I could do something like starting at position 1, going until the end. All right, we're just going to get rid of, so that's going to start at index, show me the stuff that's starting at index 1 and going until the end. That's what this means. And that will get us just the numbers out of there. We're pretty close to being done. The last thing we want to do is these are actually all going to be strings. I don't know if there's a way that we could show that. Let's see. Say if I had like, and I'm going to make a better version of this in just a moment, but we could say answer.append. I think that should be good. And if we print answer, maybe that'll be good. Let's try that. Yeah, and you can see these are all strings, right, because they're in quotes. So what we need to do is we'd also need to convert this into a float, just to make it into a decimal value. Boom, there we go. So now we have all this. I don't necessarily like all this code, so this would work. We do have this down, and we have everything kind of into one package. If we wanted to, we could find like print max answer, and that would get us the maximum value. We could also do like the minimum, get us the minimum value. We could find the sum, how much it would cost to buy all these books. All right, so really easy ways that we could apply a function across the entire method. All right, I do want to, before I move on from this, let's see, is there anything else? There's a lot of other extensions with this. The one thing I do want to kind of cover with this is a very Java way of doing this. I really want to focus on doing like a Python version of this. And I'm going to do that using map. I want to make a list, and then I want to convert that list into, I'm going to use map to take that list and convert it into something else. So what I have is, I have book group up here as my list, and that's the kind of input thing I want to do. And then I really want to apply all this as a kind of method. So I'm going to make a lambda expression. I'm going to say lambda. My input's going to be x, could be, whatever I'm taking in is going to be x. And then I need to apply this to, instead of code, it's x. Okay. Do all this stuff, find it, get the text, extract that text, convert it into a float. And then I can also apply this to, I could say answer. I'm trying to think if there's some other shortcuts I could do in here. I think this is getting pretty close to being, right. I'll say book group, comma, L. And let's comment all this stuff out. We can condense that down a little bit. What do we have in here? Let me just pause for 1 second. Oh, I think I just flipped these values. I think I should have put the function first, yeah. Easy to mistake that. Flip that. Good, there we go. And so now we have answer is now being solved from that. And we kind of cut out all this excess stuff. Just a different way of doing it. I wonder if there's not a better way that we could do this all in like one, and even in a more condensed. But I think this is a pretty good approach to doing this. Yeah, pretty good. I think we could use some regex in here to make this a little bit, maybe a little more robust. Maybe you might come across some data where it doesn't have the dollar sign or pound sign. So maybe you'd like want to have something that's a little more robust, and just looking for digits separated by a period. That could definitely be a better option for this. But that's just designed to be a primer for how to get started with this. There's so many other things we could do. So I'll leave you with this. Like, some things we could think about are, this is also part of the HTML. Like, we have the next page on here. So we could actually, in doing this at the very end, we could run this loop and then also load up the next page and kind of form this into a loop where we're like going to collect all the data off the page and then go to the next page, collect all the data, go to the next page, until so long as there is like a next page. let's see. That's one thing we do. We could also, if we go on to the next page, you'll start to see if there's a bit of a pattern up here with the way that the pages are organized, right? There's catalog, page 2. If we put in page 3 here, it's going to go to the next one. Page 4. So you can make, that could be an even easier version of this loop, is that when we try and loop through this thing, instead of requesting this, we can request this, turn this into like an F string, where we're going to loop through this thing with different values of I. And that would loop through more of the web page. And that might be something where it would be helpful then to have like page.status, because then you might want to find, like, if you get to the end of the line, you might want to not proceed if the status code isn't like 200. So that could be a good option in there. I had some other option that I was thinking of. I don't want to take this, I want to make this take forever. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. I do have one more idea. I did want to think about, did I really need all this stuff? Could I have just done this right here? Let me try that real fast. You can stop the video anytime you want, right? Let me just, instead of trying to search for this group and then search for the sub pieces within this group, let's just try and look directly for this. So let's do, I'm going to do this. I want to do, let's call this like test is going to be equal to soup.findAll. And then we're going to say this stuff here. So I don't need the find part, but I do need the fact that it's a paragraph. I do need that. Let's see what we get inside of. Let's put an endpoint on here. My only concern is, like, maybe this style was used somewhere else on the website. I'm not sure that's really a, oh shoot. I'm not sure that's really a valid concern, but it's just something I was thinking about. Let's try it again. All right, I don't know what I did. I think I just restarted and it was working okay. All right, so we want to see, like, what are the contents of test. We're just finding just directly with this, skipping a lot of steps here. Let's see what we get in test. Yeah, so we're able to access this price directly, which is kind of what I thought would happen, because I think you wouldn't reuse these class names on different things, like, unless it's a bad website. So this is a way of, like, directly collecting this thing. So we could really just do this and then do, and this is like, maybe you've turned it off already, but we could maybe just do something like that. Well, that's not. Yeah, as we get the list, then we have to do something from that. Anyways, I also think we could turn this into like a list generator, but I'm going to stop that right now.